Welcome to City Life. Coming up today on the programme, Sam Johnson from the Volunteer Student Army, Michael Gorman from the City Mission, the Economic Recovery Manager from CERA, and movies with John from Rialto. But first in the programme, Bob Frame from Landcare Research. Welcome to the programme.
Good morning, Kanita.
Now tell me about your latest project, Magnetic South.
Magnetic South is a new online social game that we're going to be playing around the whole world actually, but centred here in Christchurch on June the 14th. Starting at 9 AM until midday on the Wednesday the 15th. And it's a game to really encourage everyone to put up their ideas about what they would like Christchurch to be like in the future and how we'll get there.
Tell me more about this game.
Well, it's a social media experiment. It's the first time it's been played anywhere in the world outside a conference or a specialist audience. We really want to encourage, we found this technology in America, in Silicon Valley. It was invented by a woman called Jane McGonigal, who's a presenter on TED, and Oprah Winfrey rated her as one of the top most influential women in the world.
Gosh.
And so we've been talking to her about bringing this game to post-earthquake Christchurch and using it to get people to place themselves in the future and start to give us ideas about how we will get there. And we've got Bob Parker, we've got the Christchurch City Council are very enthused, so it's part of the Share an Idea suite of ideas. But it's a specific one-off event. We want as many people as possible to play and engage with it.
So did you propose this idea to the council?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
We rang them up and went round and had a quick coffee in the lobby.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they do things kind of really quick these days. It's kind of good.
So tell me about the format behind it.
It uses ideas that come up in a kind of Twitter-sized chunk, so 140 characters. Anyone can put up any idea as long as they've registered for the game. Excuse me. And then other people will comment on that, they will support the idea, they might create a challenge to it, they might provide momentum, they might provide a new idea. So Kanita might play, and then Kanita will get scores on the game, and she'll rise up the scoreboard as her ideas come to the cream of the pick, and the lesser ideas will tend to fall away and get lesser points. So it's competitive, and we'll be moderating the game as it plays, and giving awards for the biggest big idea or the smallest small idea. And we'll be adding double points, we'll be getting specialist blogs on the side to add more ideas to it and give people a broader sense of what might be possible in the future for Christchurch.
Tell me about what the game will involve. Is it very technical? Will I be able to do it?
Anyone can play it. We've tested it out. It's simply you put in 140 characters with your idea. So it's just the size of a tweet, and you can say, I think it's really important that Christchurch has more local TV stations in the future. And we need to encourage those kinds of media outlets, not just national ones, for example. And then you could pick on that. Other people will then comment on your idea, and it will build momentum, and you'll get points as people do that.
Tell me about your target market with the game.
Target market will be two sectors. Young people, those engaged mostly with social media, so 15 to 35-year-olds. Bob Parker was very keen to target that group. And I think also professionals in all the professional organisations giving their sort of professional opinions to what will be useful for the future. Because for Christchurch to be successful, we need to attract talent, investment, people and bees. We need to get the environment right, and it needs to be one that reflects the garden city of old into a new sense, new state.
It's very similar to Share an Idea, isn't it?
It's similar to Share an Idea, but on this one you're building ideas one on another. So a particular good idea will build momentum and get more points as it goes up the leaderboard, rather than just many ideas going into the big pool.
So who are the people behind it? Is it Landcare Research?
It's Landcare Research,
right.
And a colleague in Wellington, Stephanie Pride, with the Institute for the Future in Palo Alto in California. So a unique partnership.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now, tell me more about when it is, who will be running it on the days, and moderating it as well.
There'll be half a dozen of us, or a bit more constantly, round the clock out at Lincoln in the hub, with guest bloggers. It's from 9 AM on Tuesday the 14th, so in just under 2 weeks, and until noon on Wednesday the 15th, so 27 hours. And we'll be available round the clock. You can register online now at www.magneticsouth.net.nz and register there, and you're on.
Why was it so important for you to not just let people in Christchurch have their say, but people from around the world?
Because one, we thought we're very busy here on just the rebuild. People overseas might have a different perspective on that, but also we wanted to attract other Cantabrians, other Kiwis overseas, the diaspora, who might also feel that they want to contribute their ideas and get those involved and build on some of the sharing ideas.
That's great. So magneticsouth.net.nz.
Correct.
And that's from mid next week.
It is.
It is. Bob, thank you so much for coming on the programme. Good to see you.
A real pleasure. Thank you.
Now I'd like to welcome back to City Life our City Missioner, Michael Gorman. Good to see you.
Well, it's lovely to be here again.
So give me an update with what's happening with the City Mission.
Well, we're trying to establish some sort of predictability in our lives. I suppose we're searching for the new normal. We don't quite know what that is yet. So we're looking at the way we work and how we can make contact with the people who we used to have contact with, and also how we can be useful to a whole new group of people who might need us.
So you're finding now that your focus has changed a little bit from what it was pre-earthquake?
It has, in terms of the need to go out into the community more. I guess in the past we had people coming to us, but now we realise that that's perhaps not a safe place for some people. They are reluctant to come into the city, and they're still in need. So what we've done is we've had the loan of a camper van, and we're going out into some of the eastern suburbs and just being available to offer counselling, not in-depth counselling, but counselling, putting people in contact with other people, providing food if necessary, and just trying to be useful to them.
Okay, and is this a daily thing that you're doing?
No, we do it a couple of times a week. We have to fit it in over and above the other services that we're offering.
What other services are you offering at the moment?
Well, we have the food bank, and at the moment the demand for that is growing again. It went flat for a wee while, but it's really growing again.
Okay.
And we have the men's night shelter, and then a women's drop-in centre, and a fairly comprehensive drug and alcohol service as well.
How's your building at the moment?
Well, tricky.
Yeah?
The men's night shelter, we can't use the kitchen because the building next to that is insecure and will have to be demolished. So we've been having barbecues, and some of the volunteers have been making food and bringing it for the meal at night. And we've managed, but we're feeling just a little stressed, and we'd like to have some resolution to that fairly quickly.
Okay, tell me about your new building.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big hole in the ground for a while, and then suddenly things happened and concrete arrived, and so we've got the basement finished almost, and the first floor is being put down, and so it's really something to see at the moment.
Whereabouts is it?
It's just over the road from where we are at Hereford Street.
Okay, good. What will be happening? What will the services be inside the new building?
It's almost a complete shift. The missions buildings were very old, and only one of them was purpose-built. So the others were old houses that we'd forced into some sort of submission so that we could use them. Now we're going to have a new men's night shelter, a new women's day centre, a new women's drug and alcohol centre, and a social detoxification centre, new administration, new food bank. So it's pretty comprehensive, really.
This must be one of the first big buildings put up post-earthquake.
Yes, it will. We're excited about that. We feel that there's something rather wonderful in a really caring city about us providing one of the new buildings, the first new buildings, for people to be assisted and to be helped. So that's a really good feeling.
How's the community support been post-earthquake to the City Mission?
People have been amazing, and that's from a whole variety of areas. Like we had a group of women from England who sent over some money for us, and we're going to use that to take a busload of children up to Hamner for the day, because kids are really under stress as a result of this quake, and if we can provide a treat and a day when they've taken out of themselves, then I think it's worth doing. We've had support from all over New Zealand, and I'm really grateful for that. You know, my opinion of Aucklanders has absolutely changed.
Has it?
They've been wonderful.
Yeah.
Dine Aid has been wonderful to us. We've had individual people from all over the country, and our own traditional supporters who give and give and give have given again, and it's very humbling. You know, when people, probably some of them not finding it that easy themselves, and they're still giving to us, and so that we can continue to help those who need it.
Are you finding that people that do need the support of City Mission, have you found that their need is changing?
There's a great anxiety that we have to try and help people to cope with. And there's a lot of people who, I think I've mentioned before, they're redundant. They never thought they'd be made redundant. They never thought they'd need our help. And now they do, and we're really pleased to help them because they've helped us in the past. So there's that new group of people. There are our traditional people too, and there's a risk that they may have been forgotten in this quake because they didn't have houses, so they didn't need EQC or any of that sort of thing. But they have experienced traumas. They've got their stories to tell about where they were at the quake, about how scared they were, about how anxious they are now. And so we're able to listen to those stories and to share our stories with them as well.
It's always good, isn't it, that conversation?
It's really healthy. I think that the more we can talk about what's happened for us, the better. And it doesn't matter who you talk to in a way. It doesn't have to be professional people or anything. But it's just about sharing those stories. And I know I wanted to. You know, I wanted to tell people what it was like for me.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think it's a part of the human condition that we've all been through something. It's brought us together. The trick now is how we can keep together. And I just hope we're not losing that.
How do we make sure we don't lose that?
Oh, help.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it's in little things, I think. Like, I was incredibly polite driving after the quake. I think I'm getting back to my naughty old ways again. Maybe if I can keep being polite, keep thinking about other people, keep the hope as well. Like, it's so easy to be bogged down by the awfulness, but I think what we need to do is to try and hold hope, because things will get better. You know, we know that from our collective experience. We know it from the experience of other tragedies in other parts of the world, that you are absolutely changed, but that you grow through these experiences, that you get over them, that things do get better.
Michael, really good to have you on the program. See you back here soon with City Life.
Thank you.
And we'll be back after this break. Welcome back to City Life, and welcome to the program Adam Ives, a photographer, car builder and student, and he's only 12 years old. Welcome to City Life. It's good to have you here.
Thanks.
Now, you're a student at Chisnawood Intermediate.
Yep.
Your teachers must be pretty proud of you.
Oh, yeah, pretty proud.
Yeah. Let's look at some of your articles that you've written. So you have written for New Zealand Petrolhead,
Yep.
haven't you? How did you get into this?
The original photographer, he died, and they were looking for someone to take photos, and Dad sent up a few of my photos, and they thought they were really good, so
Really?
I got the job.
You got the job. Let me open this up to your article. It's sheer madness. Tell me about this one.
It's the Rangiora Muscle Car Madness show, and this year it was quite rainy, so there was lots of mud around, and that's how it got the title. It's Sheer Madness. And the event goes on for 4 days, from Thursday until Sunday, and it's just a show where there's lots of American muscle cars and Australian muscle cars, so street machines, hot rods and V8s.
Oh my gosh. You must know a lot about cars.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to save this one for last. We'll talk about the event. You write for New Zealand Rodder.
Yep.
How did you get to write for these guys?
It was the same thing as NZ Petrolhead, because the original photographer, he did the photography for NZ Petrolhead and NZ Rodder.
Ah, okay, cool. So I'll open it up to reveal this awesome double spread that you've done here. Now tell me about this one.
It's the same event as the other, it's Sheer Madness,
Yeah.
but they wanted me to do a preview before they did the big one.
Okay.
And
Cool.
so it's most of the photos are on there. They're of the Friday, one of the Friday cruises we did to the Whitebread Boys Brigade camp.
Yep. Awesome. How did you get into, did you find that you just loved writing and taking photos, or
Yep.
is it that you love cars?
Oh, it's a bit of both.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, how did you get into car building?
My dad, he's a real car enthusiast,
Yeah.
and I think the first car he got was a 1970 Chevy El Camino or something like that, and I just, every time he took me out, and I really loved going around in it, so I really got into the cars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you built a car yourself?
I'm building one right now.
Are you?
Yep.
And you don't even drive?
No.
Or do you drive?
Well, not on the road.
Okay, so like tracks and things like that?
Yep.
Cool. So let's finally look at this one, a Southern Road Trip. Now, this was the Great US Day in Dunedin, is that
Yep.
right? So you went down to Dunedin. Tell me about that.
That was my first ever road trip, and I went with a couple of Dad's friends who are car enthusiasts as well in their 1968 Dodge Charger.
Oh, yeah?
And yeah, we went from Kaipoi to Dunedin, which took about 4 hours, and there was a few stops on the way. And yeah, that was also my first time in Dunedin as well.
Really?
Yep.
So a real road trip. Now, what was the reaction with the editors and the publishers of these magazines when a 12-year-old was approaching them to do some writing?
They were very impressed with the quality of work that I was giving them for someone my age, and they thought that I was quite reliable because I met all the deadlines. So
That's cool. So who really encouraged you to get into it?
um,
Or was it you that you
Yeah.
did you just really want to get into it
yeah, it
yourself?
was mostly Dad, but I really wanted to get into it as well.
Yeah. Do you see a future in this for yourself?
Yep,
Yeah. So you think you'll go into journalism and
hopefully.
yeah, photography? Yeah.
Yep.
And car building?
Yeah.
Of course. What are you going to do? Are you going to choose now, or are you just going to work on all of them?
Work on all of them.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. Because you're still young, you know.
Yep.
You've got heaps of time to decide what you want to do. So tell me about the cars that you love.
I love 1970 Dodge Chargers and 65 Chevy Impalas. My dad's got a Chevy Impala.
I've never even heard of those cars. So have you seen those cars? Oh, so he's got one of those cars, but
Yep.
the other one is something you would like to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and do up.
Yep.
And paint, do the panelling.
I'll probably get someone else to do that.
Oh, okay. So when you're building a car, tell me about the process.
It's, well, you sort of start off with a chassis, which is the bit that the body sits on, so it's one of the main parts of the car.
Yeah.
And yeah, you go from there, you accumulate parts and you put them on the chassis and until you've got a rolling chassis, and then I think on goes the body, but I haven't got that far yet.
You know so much about cars. And are you paying for all this yourself?
Yep. It's,
Are you?
all from the photography.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, good on you. So have they asked you back to do some more writing?
Yep, I do. Well, there's an issue of each magazine that comes out every month, and I I write articles for them. So whatever car events there are, I just with those car events, I just take the photos, and when I get home, I write up an article about them, and then I send them up to the boss, and they'll publish it. So I get the money from that.
That's cool. And finally, how do you deal with the pressures of being a professional photographer and writer?
Oh, there is pressure in photography, but there's not much because all the people are really nice and they don't mind telling you about their car. So if there is pressure, I usually just, take a deep breath and ask them about, the cars, and then afterwards it's just, oh yeah, that was easy.
Yeah, cool. And what do your friends think? And your family, what do they think?
Well, Mum and Dad are very proud of me, and
Yeah.
my friends think it's really cool that I've got that job. So
Yeah. It's awesome. It's a pretty unique part-time job, isn't it?
Very.
Yeah. Adam, really good to have you on City Life.
Thanks.
It's good to see you. We'll catch up with you maybe later on in the year to see how you're going and catch up with your other articles.
Right.
Would that be all right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back to City Life, and welcome Kevin from Angels Gate Recording Studio. And I must say, one of the few surviving studios in Christchurch.
Yes, it is. I got very, very lucky. All of my liquefaction was in the parking lot. I lost a few things off the shelves and stuff, but.
What's some of the work that's coming through your studio at the moment?
Well, currently, because my studio is functioning, Tandem Studios is doing their voiceover work through my studio now, as well as I have some album projects and EP projects coming through. I'm producing a girl named Shayna King, so I'm doing all the pre-production for that, as well as we just had an open house on the 28th, and over 150 people came through the studio, so it was a very large success. I was very happy to see everybody come in.
Good. Traditionally, with recording studios, you know, you compete against each other to get the work, but I guess now in Christchurch, that's the kind of thing you do. You open it up for.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, I've known Dave at Tandem Studios for a while. I actually did Craig Smith's album, part of that at Tandem Studios. So what I did was, right after the earthquake, was call those people and tell them that, you know, my studio was available for them to continue to use their projects, you know.
That's good.
So we're more of a, I think the community here in the recording industry is more of a community, so we try to help everybody out.
Now, you're not from Christchurch. Why did you come to Christchurch?
Well, in 2008, I was here with Stevie Wonder. We did the CBS Arena, and I met the day before. I had a day off, and I had been to New Zealand several times over the years, but never got to come to the South Island. So that day off that I had, I was going to see as much of the South Island as possible. I went to the art gallery for breakfast and met a lady there, and she was on the same tour looking at the art gallery. And we had lunch, and she said, asked me what I was going to do, and I told her I was going to take the bus to the tram and see the city from there. And they had a car, and she ended up going, well, you should see Sumner, and you should see this, and you should see the garden, and that ended up to dinner. And and I came back to visit again, and after the tour was over, and then she came out to California, and
so your one day off led to
a great relationship with my fiancée Lynn.
Oh, congratulations.
And so after commuting for about a year back and forth and meeting Craig Smith and starting to work on his project, and he came to Los Angeles and finished the album there. I used some members of Stevie's band for his band for the album, as well as started to run out of frequent flyer miles.
Yeah.
So you know, Lynn and I worked out how I could, you know, get here, and I moved here in February last year.
Okay, so you worked with Craig Smith. I'll just pick up his album here. Tell me about this album.
Well, 45 South is a compilation of a lot of Craig's songs. He's a fairly prolific songwriter. So,
of course, we know him as the writer of The Wonky Donkey.
Yes, and Wilby the Bumblebee.
That's right.
His children's books are doing quite well.
But this is quite different.
So yes, it is. It's a good, well-rounded album. There's a lot of acoustic and electric on it. So, but it's an album I kind of designed like a good old Eagles album or something like that you can just put on, and it has a variety of music on it, and it's really good to listen to. So.
Okay. So why did you build Angel's Gate Recording Studio here in Christchurch?
Well, part of it was when I did Craig's album at Tandem, and it was a little difficult. I had to record 11 pieces of the string section of the Christchurch Symphony Orchestra, and having a room big enough, finding enough microphones, all that kind of thing. Plus the fact that there was just a wealth, as I got to stay here longer, there was a wealth of very good musicians here. There still is. I mean, and I thought, you know, if they had a real music studio with all of the tools that you would have in Los Angeles, that we could make some really good music out of this town.
So you brought in a lot of equipment.
I did. I brought in a very fine API recording console, which is one of the best analog consoles that you can have. And I have a lot of vintage guitars and amplifiers that I've used on several albums over the years, and I brought those along as well.
Fun. Now, as you say, you had an open day at your recording studio last weekend.
Yeah.
What are the people that, you say 150 people came through, what are they looking to do? Are they looking to record themselves?
Well, some of them were the parents of children who are fairly prolific, and they wanted to see how they could help expand their careers,
Okay.
as well as the music community, other people from, that have home recording studios and things like that. But mostly it was a well-rounded group. I mean, a lot of people came, some just to see, but a lot of musicians came in, people that I've talked to. I did just book one project yesterday from some of the people that came to see the studio. So,
Cool. So let's look at who you've worked with in the past in the music industry.
Well, I've been very fortunate. I've started doing this from high school on. But right out of high school, I started working for the band. Michael Murphy, who did Wildfire back in the 70s, he's the first actual artist to call me and fly me across the United States and take me on tour, which encompassed going across the United States 3 times in 3 months in a bus. And that was my indoctrination to the road, and I pretty much stayed on it from the 70s all the way to now.
Wow.
I've worked for Pat Benatar, Joe Walsh, Ringo Starr.
Wow.
Currently, I've been working for Stevie Wonder for the last 20 years. Very lucky to do that.
Yeah.
Also, have done Smash Mouth, and did those guys for about 10 years. So.
Oh my gosh. So you've been in the industry for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's just finally look at the things that your studio offers here in Christchurch.
Well, it offers a very good sounding room with quality microphones, quality recording equipment, Pro Tools HD2. I have a very fine engineer, Johnny Pipe, who you know.
Yeah, I do.
And between him and I, we seem to get quite a bit done.
Oh, good.
So,
How can we get in touch with you?
well, I have a website. It's angelsgate.co.nz,
Okay.
and all my contact information's on there. And I look forward to hearing from people.
Great. Kevin, really good to have you on City Life. It's good
That's
to
great
hear
to meet
that a
you.
recording studio is open in Christchurch. And we'll be back after this break. Welcome back to City Life and welcome to the program, Sheila. Now tell me about your role at CERA.
I've got the role of looking after economic recovery for Canterbury and having a team in there that assists all of the groups out there in Canterbury that have a role in economic recovery, and particularly initially business recovery.
So who have you got in your team with you?
I've got a really diverse team, and I've borrowed them, so thank you to all those people I've borrowed them from. So they've come out of a range of organisations like Trade and Enterprise, the Department of Labour, Canterbury Development Corporation, and so they're on secondment from their usual jobs, and they're all Cantabrians as it happens, and they were all working in business recovery or economic work before they came in.
How easy was it for them to get released from their jobs to come into work for CERA?
Look, I just was amazed. It simply took me 2 phone calls, one to the person to see if they were willing to be released, and the second one to their managers and bosses. As you can imagine, I was picking really good people, so for them to be given up was really difficult. But everyone just so wants our work to go forward fast and be successful that they were willing to do it.
So where have you come from in come into this role?
I came out of the Department of Labour,
Okay.
and my experience was the same. I got one phone call and rang my boss, and that was fine. I was already working in business recovery and working alongside the Chamber of Commerce and the Canterbury Development Corporations and the councils and the other government departments post the first earthquakes.
Oh gosh. It seems to be the new normal though here in Christchurch that people do have to put down what they're doing to do something else.
Look, I think that's right, and people just accept that that's how it is, but we shouldn't forget kind of the toll and how difficult that is and take it for granted really, and employers and employees are all going that extra mile to make it work.
They sure are. So what's the approach to building an economic recovery strategy?
What we're doing is that we're quite a small team, and so our role is really to assist those that are already out there it's not a blank sheet. They're already organisations whose focus is economic recovery, both locally and nationally. So you have organisations like Treasury and Ministry of Economic Development. Down here we have the Economic Development Agencies, so Enterprise, North Canterbury, CDC, and out at the Selwyn Council as well.
Okay.
And of course all of the business groups. So we're trying to work with all of them, find out what their plans are, what their strengths are, what the gaps are, and how we can join that all together into a really comprehensive plan.
So what are some of the key pieces of work that's underway at the moment?
Well, there's lots, but I know one that Cantabrians are really keen to hear about is the labour market. And are we going to have enough people to do all of the roles, particularly in construction and rebuilding? So there's a lot of work going on at the moment around making sure there's enough training programs and that they're funded, and that we can support people into the construction sector.
Okay, and how can businesses and individuals have input and be linked in?
There's actually multiple ways. We're meeting with lots of business groups every week, and we're happy to hear of others. Some of those are the ones that are well set up. Some are new, particularly for the earthquake recovery. For example, like the restart groups and the groups that are trying to get an early start in a city, and we're very keen to support those. But there's also going to be some very set occasions shortly around how they can have an input into the overall strategy for recovery and then the business and economic recovery. So they'll be well advertised in all of the media. Okay. Now they can either do that directly, and there'll be face-to-face meetings, there'll be web opportunities they can write in, but they can also do it through their business associations. So we'd kind of encourage everybody to keep in touch with their networks and do it through those. And so we're hearing from industry groups and the Chamber and the Canterbury Business Leaders Group. So it can come via those or individually.
Do you have timelines for something like this with your job? Do you know when you have to have something done by, or is it just something we just don't know yet?
For some things there's timelines, for example in the Act of when we have various plans. But a big focus of our role is one of the things that can help businesses the most is actually give them some timelines and help them understand about when can they rebuild, when can they get into this part of the city. And so that's a focus of our work at the moment, is trying to get some of those times and dates firmed up so that businesses can make their decisions.
Okay, and is your team approachable? Can we make contact with you?
Yes, you can. So you can phone into us, but what we do want to get across is actually CERA doesn't do everything, and so all of the usual channels are there. So if what you need to know about is something the council normally does, the council will still be doing it. If you need one-to-one support for your business, Canterbury Recovery is the place to go. However, our job is if you're having trouble or you don't know where to go or something's stuck and needs to be unstuck, then we can often help do that.
And how can we get in touch?
Look, go on the website, just ring the 0800 number, send us an email. So it's cera.govt.nz, and there's a line there and we'll get back to you.
Okay, Sheila, thanks for coming on the program.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Now, you might recognise my next guest as the man who was behind the initiative for the Volunteer Student Army. Sam Johnson, good to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So how did you start the Student Army?
Well, it started after the September earthquake, and it was just through Facebook. So a lot of people, the conversation about social media is certainly getting up there in all the different communities, and we've seen after the earthquake how important social media is for different lines of communication. And so after the Christchurch earthquake in September, I just started a Facebook page to mobilise some volunteers. It's really the perfect opportunity to get students out there and not just burning couches and knocking over letterboxes.
That's not what all students do, though. So what was the idea behind it? Was it so you could get out there and help your community, or because there was nothing else to do?
A combination of both. Because there's nothing else to do, it's going to cause a whole lot of havoc. And with sort of work I've been doing with Community Board and just sort of finding out what happens in the community, it's pretty clear, really, that when there isn't a lot to do for students, we find things to do ourselves that aren't often the most positive things to do. And it was really the opportunity I wanted to help, and didn't know how to help, so we thought we'd invent our own way.
So were you already on the community board?
No, it wasn't. No.
You weren't. No. After that came.
Yeah, the election was in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was a, I guess, looking back at September, it was a kind of a good rehearsal for what was to come in February.
Yeah, very much so. I think like for City Council, like for the Civil Defence as well, September was a great dress rehearsal for actually figuring out exactly how things work. And that's why when February hit, I mean, I was actually up in Wellington at, ironically, an emergency management conference when the earthquake hit, and we were able to just pretty much launch straight into gear and gather a team together and bring in some other organisations to help us out to grow to a scale where we can actually manage up to 1,500 volunteers a day.
So we all know what you all did. You went out there, you helped the communities. Now you went over to Japan.
Yes.
What did you do over there?
So at its core, the Volunteer Army, what we created is really a pattern of communication that talks with students and talks with the officials to try and figure out a way to get volunteers out there. But not only just physical volunteers, but welfare teams and people who want to donate, or resource volunteers, whether you're donating baking or the like. When we went to Japan, we just really were taking the lessons that we'd learnt here to work with students over there in the same situation. The caveat on me going to Japan is that we didn't want to talk to anyone officially or anyone who was in charge, because Japan are the experts in emergency management and their plans. I mean, there's an application you have on your phone that tells you before an earthquake comes in Japan. And so we were working with students and really sort of set up a program for them to go and help out in the disaster zones.
And was it successful?
Yeah, it was. Well, they're still very much working on it. So there's a team of 10 people now who are the core team, which is almost mirroring what we did here. And they're getting ready to send volunteers up to the north to an area around Ishinomaki in the Miyagi district. And the devastation there is it's horrific, and it's very, very sad. But they have a huge empathy for Christchurch. But it's safe to say, a chemical toilet, one for a community would have, that was the sort of thing they didn't have at all. So it's certainly nice to be back in Christchurch.
So do you bring anything back from there to your work here in Christchurch?
A lot of lessons. I think we learnt, probably not anything bringing back, but our personal growth was huge, and that sort of knowledge to help with Christchurch. I think there's a lot of lessons that generally can be learnt from Japan, particularly with the communication that they have as soon as an earthquake happens. They have people are trained to just to fend for themselves, and so if we were able to go and give them even sort of 5 or 10 minutes of volunteer time, that's more than what they ever expected. I think one of the biggest differences between Japan and Christchurch is that the Japanese people are conditioned to fend completely on their own. They're not waiting for any assistance. They are in these houses that are completely destroyed and expecting to be there for a month or two before anyone comes to help them out. They're just incredibly resilient.
Okay, and finally, you've started a charitable trust.
Yes, we have. Well, it's actually still in the process of being started.
Yeah.
So it's going to be called the Volunteer Army Foundation, and that's just really getting a bit more sound governance over the model that we've created in this sort of the whole time we've been holding the tail of this tiger, trying to get it to go in different directions. But the role of that is just to keep promoting young people getting out there in the community, and also a scholarship program which we're developing at the moment for kids of parents who passed away in the earthquake.
Okay, and finally, what's happening with the Student Volunteer Army at the moment? Do you meet on occasion?
Yeah, well, our committee certainly meet all the time. We've got a lot of resources, and we're lending out shovels and wheelbarrows to lots of the other community groups, the other people who want to go and help in the community. And we're sort of starting organising now a big student community day for next semester. University was so condensed this term, so we did the project, and then everyone's actually had to go back to uni. But, so we're excited about this day. It's going to be a big community day, so we're looking for projects to send students to help with. So feel free to get in touch if you've got a project that you want to help with.
How can we get in touch with the Student Army?
Best through Facebook actually, or just Sam at SVA, the studentvolunteerarmy.org.nz is my email.
All right, thank you, Sam, so much for what you do for our Christchurch community. It means a lot to everybody out there.
Well, thank you so much.
And we'll be back after this break. Welcome back and welcome to the program, Bevan.
How you going, mate?
Good to see you. Right, what's our focus this week?
Okay, so last time I was on the show, I talked a lot about the person who's not exercising, and you kind of were touching on the person who was exercising. So I thought, well, maybe what we could do is talk about those people, and I want to go with the concept of that habit is sometimes the enemy of someone who exercises a lot. So for the people who are listening to this right now and do have regular exercise in their life, you often find that they stop getting results. So you'll see gym members or people who have worked with me, who I've seen over the years in fitness, and they may do exercise every day or often enough to be happy enough to tick the box. But they've gone to the point where it's just a habit, and they're no longer getting results from their workout. I often think of the saying, that good is the enemy of great. And I often think with exercise, that's often the case with a lot of people who are exercising, that for the people who do have a regular exercise routine, are you actually achieving big results? Or are you just ticking a box that's, while there is benefit to doing that, and I encourage that behaviour, is it time to actually look at what you're doing and to go, maybe I should put some focus into my training so that then I can get better results and better rewards and fulfilment from the exercise?
Okay, so how do we do this?
So there's a few things you can think of. One of the things, the broader picture stuff is to find a goal. I'm always a believer that it's interesting when you watch people who have exercised for a long period of time, that the people who achieve the most are the ones who find a movement they really enjoy. So that can be anything. It can be dance, it can be running, it can be cycling, swimming, classes, whatever. They set a realistic goal around that based on where they are right now. And that's really important when it comes to goal setting, is not just to go, okay, well, I want to do a marathon, but you've only ever ran 2K. A realistic goal would probably try to do a fast 5K. And that's, for the limits you have right now, that's going to make you more successful and more driven. Whereas a marathon, you're going to go out the first week, you're going to do a 5K run and you feel like a failure, and there's a higher chance you'll go off that path. So setting realistic goals around the movement you love, and then find environments where people are already doing that movement. So let's say you love dance and you set a goal of competing in a dance competition. That's just the goal, not to win it, just to compete. And so where are people doing dance in a competitive way? And so you'd find some clubs and you move yourself to those environments so you can learn the lessons that those environments can create for you. So, look at what you're doing with your exercise and set those targets. Another thing to do, so that's kind of more the big picture stuff, set realistic goals around where you are and find a movement you love. Another thing to think of is setting objectives for each workout. So often that's where that habit becomes the enemy. On a Monday you go to the gym and you jump on the bike for an hour. On a Tuesday you do your weights. On a Wednesday, and that becomes every week you're just doing the same thing over and over again. Whereas if we can start to set objectives to our training, we go into it and we go, okay, well, today on my bike, I want to get my heart rate up over 80% for a 20-minute period. That's my objective for this session. Okay. So then you actually have a focus that's going to make you work harder when you work in that training session. And they talk about, when you think about exercise, is that most people spend 90% of the time in physical and hardly any time developing the mental side of how they do their exercise. Like visualization and all those types of techniques. People don't actually spend much time doing them, but there's a lot of power in actually spending a bit of time on how to achieve the mental side of exercise. So before, maybe in your warm-up, or even before when you're driving to your workout, or in the morning when you're planning your workout, actually think of what are the objectives that I want from today's session. So, when I'm going to go to the gym, what is the objective of the session? Okay, my objective is to have short recoveries in between sets on the weights machines, or it's to do 3 times 5 minutes on the treadmill as fast as possible. That clearer direction gives you much better focus and a challenge which will help you achieve a much higher workout level, which obviously is going to be good physically, and also mentally it will be more stimulating as well. So. Yeah.
Right, so it's about the focus, writing down our goals, or just having goals in mind?
I think I'll talk about goals in a bigger picture, maybe another show, but I think just in this before we go too in depth, it's just making sure it's realistic to where you are right now. A classic example is you see people who come in and, as an example was a guy who wanted to do an Ironman a few years ago I talked to, and he'd never done any long distance, and he thought he could do a sub 10-hour Ironman, which is pretty good, you've got to be pretty decent. And he came on and he was going to do it all in 6 months, and he just was so unrealistic. He was only setting himself up for failure. Now, good on him, he got an Ironman done, but it took him 14 hours. But that's realistic, and he should have just gone, realistically, let's just try to see if I can get an Ironman in. And so when you set your goals, you have to look at where you are right now and where is the next step that's just a little bit challenging for where you are. Because if you go, okay, I'm going to do this 10-hour Ironman, he was good because he stuck at it, but most people, it becomes unrealistic really quickly, so they move away from that goal. So just be really realistic in the targets you set for yourself.
Cool, I'm looking forward to finding out more about goals. Yeah. Now, you are a contributor in
Great magazine.
CC
Life-changing magazine.
Life-changing magazine.
I know the editor too, she's amazing.
Oh, thank you, I'll pass it on. Now, what has been your sort of focus this month in CC magazine?
Yeah, I've kind of talked about priorities and how we set our priorities, and I think it's a really interesting subject when you talk to people once they get to around my age, around the early to mid-30s. When you're young, you don't have life priorities, you don't have family, kids, your career is important. important, but not that important. You're kind of out partying and you kind of have a lot of freedom in life. When you're going to get to your 30s, things change, and suddenly, you know, you get a big mortgage, you know, two kids pop out, you know, your time's consumed, and that's when you find a lot of people start to lose exercise in their life. And so I kind of just touch on that in this month. You know, how can you make sure that you're still keeping a healthy lifestyle as a priority when you are kind of having these new directional changes in your life?
Cool. All right, so that's CC Magazine that can
Again,
be
life-changing
picked up.
team, make sure you get it. Yeah.
Can be picked up in Avonhead Mall, Mirabelle Mall and Fendleton Mall and all over the city. And you can also find it online, cbscene.co.nz. We also do have a Facebook page now, CC Celebrating Christchurch.
Get you plugging.
I'm such a good plugger. Now, we can find your podcasts. Whereabouts?
You can go to my website, Bevan James Eyles. If I'm going to do a plug, I think I have a running group I call Saturday Runners.
Okay.
And it's a group that caters for beginners, intermediate and advanced runners. We have like anywhere from 30 to 60 people running every Saturday.
Wow.
The website is saturdayrunners.co.nz. We have coaches and we train you how to run. We have wicked social environment as
Sounds
well.
good.
So if you want to come along and try it out, it's totally free for your first time, so check it out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I might give it a go. You know, I might try, okay?
Hey, it's all good.
Bevan, good to see you.
Hey, and you.
Finally on the program, I'd like to welcome back John from Rialto. Good to see you.
Hello, Kenita. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So what's happening in the land of movies this week?
In the land of movies this week, we have the movie X-Men. Now, look, I saw this at the weekend. I said last week that I'm not really into X-Men that much. I've seen the movie and I really, really enjoyed it.
Really?
Now, this is the story of how Professor X meets Magneto. And let's cut to the trailer.
Let's do that.
It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States. The cost of freedom is always high. No one can foresee precisely what course it will take. One path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender.
You ready for this? Let's find out. Listen to me very carefully, my friend. Killing will not bring you peace. Peace was never an option.
So, this was filmed in England. It's set in the 1960s. It's the developing of the relationship between Magneto and Professor X. Professor X is played by James McAvoy, and Magneto is played by Michael Fassbender. So, this is playing at the movies at the moment. It's a must-see. I enjoyed it.
Okay, cool. Now, what's coming up this Wednesday? Well, tomorrow night with the Rialtos showing out at Lincoln University.
We've got a movie called Mozart's Sister. Now, I didn't have a trailer for this. This movie is about... Oh, I've got to read the note. Maria Anna Mozart. She was the older sister of Wolfgang Mozart. And as kids, they were pretty talented. In fact, Maria Anna was more talented than Wolfgang. And the father took them on tours around Europe, and she always got top billing. But as they got older and she got to a sort of a marriage age, then society sort of dictated that she would have to find a husband, and the limelight sort of diminished for her, and the spotlight went on to Wolfgang, and then he went on to his many triumphs.
Oh my gosh.
So it's quite a sad story.
Yeah.
It's a European movie, so it's subtitled, English subtitles. Okay. And we've got 2 free tickets to give away this week.
Cool. Do you want to ask a question, or do you want them to just to email in?
Just email in.
Okay.
How's that?
Okay, they can email me, kenita@ctv.co.nz.
Okay.
Will that be all right?
It's good.
All right, what else is opening at the movies this week?
Well, on Thursday we have got the new Steven Spielberg, J.J. Abrams collaboration. It's called Super 8.
Cool.
It's a science fiction movie.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Okay.
Now, this movie is set in the late 70s in a small town in Ohio. It's about a group of teenagers who are filming on a Super 8 camera, and they witness a train accident. And this train was going from the secret Area 51 to a United States Air Force storage facility. The train has a crash, and there's wreckage everywhere. And then some sort of unexplained events start happening in the town, like things go missing, people go missing, and this sort of leads the deputy to suspect things, and it becomes that there's something inhuman happening. So we've got a trailer for that too.
All right, let's take a look. That opens this Thursday?
This Thursday, and that's at all the mainstream cinemas. So that'd be Riccarton, Northlands, and probably Hornby.
Okay. Anything
Yeah.
else interesting opening this week? Was that it?
That's it. Yeah,
right.
quite a quiet one apart from that. But Super 8 does look good, so go along and see it.
All right. John,
Yeah.
really good to see you. And again, a double pass to give away for Mozart.
Mozart's Sister.
On
Showing tomorrow night at Lincoln University with the Rialto Cinemas. So email you.
Okay, and where can people get tickets if they don't win?
At the door, cash sales only, $7 for students and seniors, $8 for adults.
Great. John, always good to have you on the program.
Thanks, Kenetta.
And that is City Life for today. You can now watch City Life on demand. Just go to ctv.co.nz and click on demand, and you can see all the episodes from this week. And of course, we're now on Facebook, facebook.com/CTV City Life. Now, you can get in touch with the program by emailing me, kenetta@ctv.co.nz, call me 3777 033, or write to me, PO Box 1100 Christchurch. Nice to see you, and see you tomorrow.